All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Peter Prieto. How are we doing today?
I'm good, Omar. Thank you for inviting me, man. It's I haven't done an interview for the longest time. Of course, when I was playing, it was constantly. But so thanks for the opportunity
Yeah, well, you
to
probably did it in
share.
Spanish, no?
It was in Spanish, yeah. Coming back over here, I don't think I did any English over here. It was always Spanish also. So this is probably my first one in English, yeah.
Wow, that's good. I'm excited for that. But yeah, break the fourth wall. Everybody who's listening or probably watching this on YouTube, you are my uncle.
Yes.
And I was very, very fortunate to have someone who had such a long career, I would say, as a professional goalkeeper in Liga Mx, and
Yes.
someone who I think the stars aligned for us, where your career was ending and mine was just starting. And you were
That's
my
correct.
first goalkeeper coach. So I don't know.
That's correct.
I never asked you about those days.
I had just come back from Mexico. I mean, and my idea when I came back was to become a coach, either a goalkeeping coach or a head coach. Things turned out differently, but when I got you was about 2006, 2007, around there, and I was like really energetic, and I was on top of you. I was on top of you.
I remember.
But that's how I was taught. I had so many goalkeeping coaches throughout my career. Maybe the last 2 years, the guy I had as a coach was the guy who taught me everything. Unfortunately, it was at the end of my career, but I learned so much from him. And so that's the stuff that I taught you. And that's how I wanted you to learn and to see things, because if you wanted to play the next level, that was the way to go.
Yeah.
Sorry
What does
about
he
that,
teach you?
Neil.
No, I appreciate that. It's gotten to me where I've gotten to now. But okay, what was he doing differently than the coaches?
Just teaching me new stuff. And of course, all the other coaches that I've had before that, they were good. But this guy, it was just the technical part, the technique, the correct way to do things. In Mexico, all these goalkeepers, they really didn't have, I think, the correct training. Because if you see them dive, it was incorrect. But they were good. I mean, they were, Jorge Campos. It's the clearest example. The guy, he is a phenomenon. But you would see him dive, and it seems like he was going into a pool, jumping into a pool. But they never taught them the correct way.
Yeah.
This guy, Hector, his name was Hector Quintero. He was a goalkeeper. He was tough. But my teammate, the other goalkeepers, there was three of us on the first team. We wouldn't like it. What this guy's telling us, we're a first division goalkeeper. What do you, why are you telling us all this? I mean, in the end, we all knew that it was the correct way to do it, and it was the right way to do it. It would make your game better.
Yeah.
And that's the way it happened.
It's easier to buy in when you kind of see the more efficient way to do things at the beginning. Maybe so you're a little bit more resistant.
Yes.
But then you start to recognize, oh, wow, okay, maybe I'm making a save a little bit cleaner. I'm getting my body behind the ball a little bit more.
Yes.
And you fine tune and optimize, and it's an easier buy-in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And that's why I try to transfer over to you and the other guys we were training back at, Sharif's team with at Barcelona team.
Yeah.
I think you, of course, after what you did, going to college, playing the Galaxy Academy, and I think you perfected it, because now I see you and I love it. I mean, I love everything you do. So that's good.
You take little bits and pieces, I think, from everyone and everybody who I've come across. That's kind of what it is. It's just, for example, right, the side volley.
Yeah.
That was something that people were so resistant on. It's like, get the ball, roll it out to your center backs, throw the ball long, use the arms. And then it became more of a thing with the South Americans and in Mexico as well.
Yes.
And then as that became more of a mainstay in the culture, I would say, of goalkeeping, people started to adopt it. And they said, oh, okay, this is probably a more efficient way. If not all the time, it's a good tool to have.
Of course.
So let's train it. But one of the big things, I don't know, I kind of want to run this by you, but recently I've been working with some goalkeepers, and I feel like there should be a fine balance. I feel the way that Mexico and like Latin America was painted in America and maybe in Europe as well was that all we do jump over ropes. All we do is plyometrics. That's all we do.
Yep.
And I felt like with the new generation of goalkeeper coaches here, it became super technical. And I'm not saying it's bad to do that. There has to be a balance as well when you're a young kid. And I think I did this a lot with you, is like, to understand how to be parallel to the ground, you have to put a reminder there. So if it's a rope, sure. And then you have to understand as well, there's a technique of getting low and then pushing from a low position into the bottom corners.
Yes.
And I remember doing those exercises all the time with you, where you would strike a ball, I'd lean my head underneath the rope and I'd push. And I remember since I was a young kid, that thing triggered in my mind I see the shot. Obviously, there's technique to get to it, but at the same time, pushing, and I didn't have a fear of that. And nowadays, I'm seeing young goalkeepers who are so technical and they almost feel like it's a cookie cutter. Like they move a specific way, and then from there, when there's a variable that's maybe out of their control, a shot in the top corner or a deflection or something that's bottom corner, they have to really extend themselves. They haven't been taught or gotten the muscle memory or enough reps to just push and go. So, I mean, there's got to be a fine balance there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Remember, getting that arm out, you're just stretching your whole body out. I mean, it could be that, 2-3 inches, it could be the difference if you didn't stretch that hand. That was something that he would always, emphasize to us, getting that arm out, getting your whole body out. It makes a big difference. Makes a big difference.
So early years, what do I not know about you in those early years that will give me a little bit more of an understanding of maybe your upbringing that would make me understand your life in that sense?
Well, I mean, started playing here in LA. You're talking about the 80s, 85, 86, 87, 88, 13, 14 years old. And we had the best team. We were winning everything, state cup, nationals. We were going to regionals. We were so good. I mean, during that time, we were part of the best team in the U.S. So the guys that were on top of us, which was a team called NHB Untouchables, you had Joe Max Moore on that team. You had Jorge Salcido. It was a really good team. So they were guys next up, and they were the best team in America. And we were the next size down, and we were the best team in America. So, I got that experience, but I never had training because there was nothing going on during that time. Soccer wasn't like it is now. The talent has always been there, but the training now is, it's a lot better. During the summer, my dad would, send us to Mexico, and I would get training over there with good coaches, old school coaches. Yeah. But, they taught me. And that's how I learned a little more of the position as a kid. But then after my club team, I went to college for a couple of years. I was at Cal State LA. Cal State at that moment actually was D1. My coach was Leo Cuellar. And that club team, he brought all that whole team to Cal State LA. So it was cool, but everybody was already growing and people just had other things on their mind. I still had in my mind that I wanted to play and I wanted to do something more. Back then, there was no MLS. The highest you can play was D1 college. There was some semi-pro teams and stuff like that. Indoor soccer, we're talking about 90, 91, 92. But there was really nothing more. So I still had in my mind that the best place to go is probably Mexico to see if, something can happen. So after my second year, we go down to Mexico. Nothing with the idea to stay down there. Just to see if we can, try out and if we can make a team.
But real quick, the college, you were there for 2 seasons?
So I was at Cal State for 2 seasons. So after the second season, I didn't even tell Leo that I was leaving. I was thinking maybe if it doesn't go well, I'll come back. But if, things go well, maybe I can stay. I don't know. So I go down there with a guy from Cal State LA, and we go to a team in Cancun. We're trying out with this team, and we make it. So this is the summer of 92. The coach really loved the guy. He's a forward. He was really good, Chewy. And I would be a goalkeeper, but I would be like a second or third string keeper. But, they wanted me to stay. So me and Chewy are talking, and I thought, Chewy, so what do you think, Chewy? I mean, I don't know, man. It's tough. I think I want to go back, finish school, and then maybe I could come back. I was thinking in my head, nah, that can't happen, dude. I'm thinking to myself, if we go back, when are we ever going to get this opportunity again? So I call my dad, and I tell him, hey, Dad, it's going on like this. I want to try out. I want to stay and see how it is. I told my dad, 2 years. If in 2 years nothing happens, then I'll go back and I'll finish school and I'll forget about soccer and that's it. So he doesn't stay. I talk to Leo and I tell Leo, I'm going to stay down here. He was like hysterical. Peter, no, please, you got to come back. Leo Cuellar, he's a big soccer star in Mexico. He goes, I have contacts over there. I'll take you to Pumas. I'll take you anywhere you want, but please come back. I mean, he had keepers, but I was his main keeper. And I said, no, I can't, Leo. I'm going to stay. This is the chance. Because if I don't do it now, I don't think I'll ever do it. So I was 18. That first year, I didn't play nothing. Maybe 1 game. Right? And it was like a scrimmage.
Were you regretting your decision?
I was. I was because it was tough. I mean, even though I grew up in the Mexican family, everything's different. The culture, the food, just being away from home. And, 2-3 months in, I was like, what am I doing here? I could be so much better back home. Because I was good here. I mean, I didn't have to leave, really. So, yeah, there's regrets. There's regrets because you get homesick. I would come back like on the weekend just for 2 days. From Cancun, I'll be over here to LA, and I would just be here Saturday, and I'll have to go back on Sunday because we train on Monday. And I didn't want to go back. I mean, I'll be with my mom and dad, and I'm in the airport. They're taking me back. And I had like a big, I just wanted to cry, because I don't want to go back. But I had to go back. I had told myself that I was going to do it, see what happens after 2 years. So anyway, that first year, I mean, it goes by. I come back over here and there's a chance, another opportunity for me to go try out in Guadalajara. So Guadalajara's a lot closer. I have a bunch of family there. We're from there. My dad's from Guadalajara. So I go, okay, it'll be a lot easier because I know a lot of people. So I go to Guadalajara. And this was already, start of the second year, of course, after being in Cancun for 1 year. And it was good. But we were trying out for a second division team, which was Tecos. So Tecos had the season 93-94, they had won the championship, 93. They had incredible squad. They had a couple of Brazilian forwards that were on the Brazilian national team. So they have a second division team, which is called Tecomán, and we go try out there.
Real quick. So going back to the Cancun, they let you know after that first season, hey, it's not going to work out, or you made the decision that, hey, maybe I need to go somewhere else?
So in Cancun, there was no first division team. It was only a second division team, which had the right to go up. If they won the championship, they would go to first division. But the whole idea with Cancun was they wanted to take a first division team to Cancun. So it wasn't going to happen, though. At least not when I was there. It did happen 5 years later. They took a first division team to Cancun, which was Atlante. But after that first year, you want to be somewhere where you can go up to a first division team. You don't want to stay as a second division team. So that's why I decided to go to Guadalajara.
Yeah.
And that was another, chance that maybe things could go well. I don't know. So we're in Guadalajara. We're trying out for this second division team. They had their team already, but they had some spots that they needed to fill in. One of the spots was a goalie. And there's about 50 of us trying out. And there's 4 keepers trying out. Good keepers. So this squad, they had it separated. So they had a team that was training, the second division team. And then they had all these other players, which were us, which were trying out training separately. We get a game against, during that time, was the best team in Mexico, was Chivas. They were called Super Chivas. 8 of their players were on the national team. So they come to our field, or Tecos field, to have because we're in preseason. So they want to have, some games.
What were the profiles like? Any youth national team from Mexico, or
from what?
Who were trying out with you? Or is it guys who were just maybe academies growing up and then maybe they're finding their way?
Yeah, just find a way. Maybe they had been in Chivas. They did. So in Guadalajara, you have Chivas, you have Atlas, and then you have UDG, and then you have Tecos. So you have 4 teams in Guadalajara. So all these players are trying out in all these teams. Of course, they always go to Chivas first because Chivas is, Then if they don't make it, they go to Atlas. And then if they don't make it, they go to UDG. They'll lastly go to Tecos. So Tecos had the coaches would always tell me, we have to work the hardest out of everybody because we get the players that Chivas didn't want, Atlas didn't want, UDG didn't want. So we have to work with them. But it was good for them because they were able to get a lot of players out of their academy system. So we're there. I mean, going back to that game, so there's 5 keepers. The coach tells me, I'm going to put you in. But if in 5 minutes I see that you are shitting your pants, I'm taking you out. And I'm like, okay, bring it on. I was good. I felt good at myself. So the game starts and, they're on top of us. But we were hanging on. And I was just saving shots left and right. He didn't take me out. I mean, you had 4 other keepers that were also trying out.
Really?
He did not put them in. He left me in the whole game. The game ends. We tie 1-1. As soon as the game ends, I'm like walking out. A guy comes to me. First of all, Chivas asked for me, a guy. But another guy comes in. I didn't know, but I just wanted to, be somewhere and make it. But the guy from Tecos comes. He says, no, he's our player. I didn't say anything because I just said, okay. So he pulls me out and he says, go to the office and go sign your contract. Like that. And I'm like, what? Just what's happening, What's going on? Everything just clicked. So he tells me to go to the office to go sign my contract. What am I going to say? What am I going to ask for? How much money am I going to get? He says, they're going to wait for you. Go take a shower. After your shower, go to the office. And I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. So there was these older players. They come up to me and they tell me, you're going to go sign your contract. Yeah. And do you have an idea what you're going to do? I go, no, I don't. Okay. Look this is what you're going to do. You're going to ask. He told me like this. He was so cool. He's a Brazilian guy, Lucas. He said, you're going to ask for this much. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't ask for that. There's no way. It was like 10,000 pesos, $4,000 monthly. I mean, it was a lot of money, especially during the time. I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. No, they're not going to give you that. But they'll give you 7. because that's what the highest on this team is getting. And I'm like, all right, just do it. And then he says, and then of course you don't belong to nobody. So they call it las cartas, which was you owned yourself. So you could sell yourself for so much. You're going to sell your card at the end of the season if there's an option. And if they want you, you're going to sell it for $200,000.
Jeez.
And I'm like, what? I was so afraid. And I go, I'll play for free. I want to be here.
Yeah.
You know, I want to prove myself. So finally, I take a shower. I'm still thinking I cannot ask for that money. There's no way they're going to accept it. But, you know, this is another level. And so I'm outside the office and I'm waiting. And Mr. Medina, the president of the second division team, and he comes out. Pedro? Yes. Come on in. So I sit down and I heard, you have a lot of potential and, but let's get down to business. So how much you want to win? You're going to stay here. And I'm thinking, I can't say that. He's going to say, get out of here, And I just said, 10. He says, I can't give you 10. Hold on. He opens up a drawer. He gets a paper out, and there's a list of players. He says, I can give you what the highest player gets here.
Wow.
On the second division squad. And these were guys that were U17 national teams. They had played World Cups already, the lower levels. And he tells me, this is what I can give you. And I see it. And there's Duilio, Flavio, Gilberto Adame. All these players were on U17 national teams. And I look at it, and they were winning 7.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like thinking, give me the papers I can sign, please.
You're holding it in as much as you can.
Yeah, as much as I can. And so I go, okay. Well, I think it should be okay. These guys are known, and I'm not known, so I think it should be okay. And what about your card? We want to try to keep you, and that was another thing. So I had to tell him, my card is worth this much, and if you want to keep me, at the end of the season, we're gonna write up a contract, and if that happens, we're gonna put that quantity, $200,000 at the end of the season. And that was it. I signed my contract, and even though I had been in Cancun for a year already, I had that experience. I didn't play at all, and I was winning okay money, $1,000 a month in Cancun. This was totally different. At that moment, it was one of the best organizations in the country because they were champions. They had a super excellent squad. Our president was actually the president of the federation for Tecos, so Tecos was on top. So it was a good. It was good for me.
Really right place, right time.
Right place, right time.
And so for me, it's like the expectation that day was you guys were all going to split. And the expectation, like you going to Tecos, was there anything promised to you? Or was like, hey, we're going to just have you guys in for a camp. We're going to have you guys play a few games. Or what was promised before
That's it. You're going to train for about a month, 3-4 weeks.
Okay.
And after those 3-4 weeks, we'll make a decision. Who's going to stay, if we want you, if, you're good enough or whatever. And I was lucky. I was there at the moment. That game just started my career, really, because it changed everything.
Yeah.
I was telling you that out of 10 players, 9 players have to go through this process. Killer process. The stars have to align pretty much. It's not just talent. There's so many other things involved. If one of those things do not click, he doesn't make it. And it's unfortunate because a lot of players, they don't make it because of that. And you have one player, he has the stars, and he'll make it because he'll make it, and that's just the way it is. But the stars aligned for me that day, and that started my career. And after that, it was just uphill. Uphill because I was 19, 20, being in the right club at the right time. And from there, I would play with Tecos with second division team, but I would train with the first division team. My locker room wasn't with the second division. My locker room was with the first division team. That's how much they had me as this is our future. This is our keeper for the future. So we got to take care of him. Because the 2 keepers that were on the first division team were national team players, like both of them. They would get like half. It was like Navas and they would get half and half playing, and whoever would be better would play more. So I would train with first division team, but go play with the second division team.
Describe to me that first year then, maybe.
Oh man, it was great because from being nothing, being in that locker room, I'm training with guys that just won the league, and they're super cool. Flaco, hey, Flaco, man, and un té, and because there was a guy from Uruguay, 2 Brazilians, guy from Argentina. Back then, you were allowed only 5 foreign players. It's not like now. It's crazy now. It's out of control. But you're allowed 5 foreign players. And then their Mexican players, I would say about 5 of them were on Mexican national team. So it's a good squad. But Tecos is a small team. They don't make a lot of money. They would buy players and then resell them. They were good at that. Like getting players from Chile, Uruguay, get them at low cost, bring them over here. They'll excel in Tecos, and then they'll sell them for a lot of money. So that was the way they were making money. We would get 5, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000. We wouldn't get a lot of people on that. I mean, again, there's 4 teams in Guadalajara. We're the last ones. Unless we would play like America, Chivas, Cruz Azul, our stadium would be full. But like 80% of those people were going for the other team. So that first year for me, it started all off training there with the first squad. But there's a guy he was a scout in the Fort Tecos. And again, I'm 19, 20. And he sees me training, and he says, "Hey, bien." He just starts me some questions, and okay. So that's it. Like 2 weeks later, I'm driving to practice. I go pick up my friend, and he gets out, and his dad comes out. It's a huge team over there. I mean, anywhere, of course, you make a national team. And he says, "Hey, Pedro, te llamaron a la selección. They called you to the national team." And I didn't know. The press always gets everything first.
Yeah.
Before the actual player really knows about things. So he tells me, you made the national team. I don't know. And my friends tell me, yeah, they just announced it right there on the TV. So, we go to practice, and then they tell me, present yourself next week to, the U20 national team. And I was like, what? Again.
Yeah.
Later, I go to the training. I come back. It was a 3-4 day training only. I come back, though, and then one of the guys from the first division team, he's telling me, "Hey, how did it go?" "Oh, it was good, do you know why you're there? They called you, right?" Because I wasn't known. The guys that were being called had already been U7 national team. They had played World Cups, U15, U17. I hadn't done anything. And I go, "I don't." He said, "Well, Jorge." I go, "Yeah." Well, he knows the coach, the national team coach. And he called him. He said, "Hey, I have a keeper. I think you'll like him. I think you should call him up." So that's what they called me.
Wow.
To that squad.
Yeah, you'll take it though.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So, that's the way things work, sometimes. Of course, you got to be ready. That's one of the things I always would say, you got to be prepared because you just never know, the moment when things will happen. But you got to be good in your physical part, in the emotional, and in your mental part, because if something happens, you're ready.
Yeah.
I mean, I was ready, but I had not had the proper training.
Sure. Cancun was, like you said, my grandpa, your dad.
Yeah.
Like you're telling him 2 years, and if it doesn't work out, I come home. Then you go to Cancun, and you're coming on these short trips back home, and you feel like a little knot in your stomach of like, I don't want to leave. I want to stay back in California. I don't want to go back. Now you go to Tecos, and again, what was the time leading up to that game against Chivas? How long?
For a month.
Okay, so you were there for a month. You got acclimated a little bit. Still getting what? We had family there, correct? So you kind of you felt a little bit of some home feeling there.
Yeah, you felt a little better.
Okay,
exactly. Yes.
But I don't know how it works. I mean, I went there for a trial as 15 years old. I remember you were there I was there for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And I'm an American, and I don't really speak that much Spanish.
Yeah.
You're an American, speak Spanish. You obviously embedded in that culture at home.
Yeah.
What was that like being like an American coming into a team? I know Chivas is probably a little bit more having players from just Mexico.
Yes.
But what was Tecos like in terms of that?
Even that first year, being in Cancun, even though you're born in a Mexican family, it's totally different. Being down there is totally different. And that second year in Guadalajara, of course, I felt better. My Spanish is still not very good. There's a lot of things that I didn't know. For the players that are there, they're like, why do you bring this guy?
Yeah.
He's not from here. He's not 100% Mexico, because I was born here. But I had a double nationality, so I was able to play as a Mexican. So it was tough. But again, after being called up, having all these things going for you, everybody starts to respect you too, and they start seeing you different. But imagine for all these players who don't have that, and they have to go through all this process, and they're just getting killed. Right? And that's just the way it is. And unfortunately, again, we go back to so much talent that just nothing ever happens because they think that it's over for them. But you just never know. There's players that stick to it, and they stick to it. And then 2-3 years later, they make it. Yeah. And that's just the way it is. Yeah. And it is now. Yeah.
I noticed it a lot, especially working in the second division here with the Las Vegas Lights, which is an affiliate of LAFC. You get guys who, they come to us. They're maybe on their last contract or they were working second jobs. They got into construction, for example, one of the goalkeepers I worked with. And then he comes and plays for us, has a standout year, breakout year. talent's always been there.
Yeah.
But now he has a spotlight. He has an opportunity to prove himself. And then now he gets a first team contract with LAFC. So like you're saying, it's kind of from the depths of the darkness, all of a sudden the light shows and you make it through. But you had, so the adversity hasn't really hit you just yet. You're still, again, you're a young guy,
Yeah.
wishful thinking, naive, and these opportunities are now coming. But you were ready when an opportunity came.
Yes.
You took care of business there.
Yes.
Now you're with Tecos. Now you get a call up to the national team. So I know the Olympics, I remember I've seen at the house, there's photos of you in Mexico and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what was that process going into, I guess, that side?
So what happened? So when I get called to a U20 team, so I go train for 3-4 days, right? And I don't know, maybe I didn't make a good impression to the coach, whatever. Maybe a year passes. So I'm about 21. Now all these players that are like on U23 national team, all those players were stars already on their teams that were being called to that U23 national team, which was going to be the Olympic squad. Mm-hmm. This is 2 years before the Olympics, so like 95. I'm sorry, about 95, yeah. So a year and a half before the Olympics, which was Atlanta, I think. Yeah, Atlanta. And these guys were, they had the Eagles. I mean, they could because they were stars on their club teams. So they called them up. They weren't happy. And one of those main players was Cuauhtemoc Blanco. Guys, he is, a legend.
Yeah.
And he starts saying, you know what? No, you guys got to pay us more money. You guys give us $50 a day to spend, and we need 100. We can't, $50 is not enough. $100 a day, while they're at, if they're 10 days in Korea or wherever they're going to go. So they wanted more money daily, and they wanted extra bonus. So the federation says, there's no way. No, you guys are crazy. Okay, we're crazy. So we're not going to show up. And so the federation says, okay, you're not going to show up? Okay. So you guys are suspended for 6 months. So they suspended all those players. I mean, guys are stars from their teams. They suspend them for 6 months. The federation still had all these other games, scrimmages and games to go to.
Is it the qualifying for the Olympics, or was this?
No, before the actual qualification. I mean, so to qualify to the Olympics was 96, because the Olympics was maybe in the summer of 96. So to qualify to the Olympics was like in March of 96. But this is 95. So like a year before. So they tell them 6 months, you guys are out. So they had to make another team. So they start calling all these other players, good players that maybe would start in their teams, but not stars like the other guys. So in that 23-24 squad, they call me. So again,
opportunity.
Another opportunity, right? We show up. We played in Korea. We played in Japan. We played in Jamaica. We played Trinidad and Tobago. We played in Central America. So all these games we play. I was able to play, several games with the national team, the U23 national team.
Sure.
The 6 months pass. So now it's time for these guys to come back, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to say no to them.
Sure.
They're going to come back. So this was already maybe about 4 months before the Olympics. So they're going to make their squad to go to the pre-trials to make it to the Olympics. The coach really liked me. He calls me up with all these other guys. Oswaldo Sanchez was the number 1. The Conejo Perez was number 2, and that was number 3. So the trials was in March. We get together in February for a whole month. And this is something I never told you. I had a knee problem. I mean, my knee was killing me. I knew I had something torn. Nothing with the ACLs, but my meniscus. So, I'm telling Oswaldo Sanchez, we're in our rooms. So in Mexico, there was a big complex just for the national team. So we had the rooms, and then you have the fields, and that's where we would sleep, kitchen, where we eat and everything. But I'm telling Oswaldo, my knee's killing me, dude. He says, Peter, don't say anything. We're a few weeks out for him to make the final cut. And this is the squad that's going to go to Edmonton, Canada. That's where the Olympic trials was going to be. Don't say anything. Just hang on, dude. Because if you say something, I'm pretty sure they're going to cut you because you're not 100%. So I was like agonized. I mean, I would kick the ball and, oh, man. But I keep on training. A week before, and they're talking to everybody. And then the coach tells me, how you feeling? I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Well, you're gonna make the squad, so you're gonna go. So I mean, Oswaldo was great. Oswaldo and Conejo, they were two different. Conejo was just natural. Oswaldo was made, and he was, I mean, mentality wise, so positive, 110%. Like training wise, he would just train the hardest. And Conejo was better, but Oswaldo became better at the moment because just the way he trained and the way he thought and the way he did things. So he was a good big part of me making that. I mean, mentally,
Dude, just stay quiet. Don't say a word.
Don't say a word. Once you're on the team, that's it. You'll fly over there. If you get hurt over there, it's all right. You're on the team. So, we go to Edmonton. And again, this squad was amazing. Out of the 22 of us that were in the squad, 15 would 2 years later play in the World Cup for Mexico. So we had a very good team. We swept during the Olympic trials. We beat everybody, like easily, everybody. So we make it to the Olympics. Unfortunately, though, going to the Olympics, you have 3 older players that you could bring up or you could bring down to the squad. And the 3 players they brought was a forward, a defender, and a keeper. Jorge Campos, Claudio Suarez, and I think it was Luis Garcia. So they all got dropped out. So what happened? So I'm the 3rd keeper, so I get knocked out to go into the Olympics. But again, I mean, it was the best experience. I mean, I got to travel all over the world.
Yeah.
During that year. That was the experience of my best experience.
Yeah, and Osvaldo started
the trials, and he played all the games. Conejo, I think, might have played the last game. We were already qualified, and he played the last game. But, between both of them, they played 4 World Cups between both of them. Osvaldo started 1 World Cup.
2006, I think.
2006.
Yeah.
And Conejo started 2 World Cups, 2002, 2010.
Yeah.
So he wasn't supposed to start 2010. It was supposed to be Memo Ochoa.
Yeah.
It was, but he got the chance. Aguirre put him in, and that's the way things are.
Were they as high profile at that time?
Them two?
Yeah. What did you take away? I know you have the mentality, and then maybe I know Conejo. We see him all the time.
Amazing.
He's not that tall, but he's
not
heading. He's taking like headers on the post. That's how high he can jump.
I mean, he would touch it. I mean, it was crazy because he would be underneath the goalpost, and he would touch the top of the goalpost with the tip of his foot.
Oh my God!
Jumping wise, it's crazy. He was crazy. I mean, it was amazing. But Oswaldo, he got the proper training. He was great. His technique was excellent, but he had a very good coach at Atlas. Atlas was, during that time, was pulling out keepers like right and left. And that guy, Ramon Morales, I think it was Morales, he was the best goalkeeping coach in Mexico during that time. But he was like pulling out keepers all over. Eruy Cabuto, Fuentes, Talavera, Oswaldo. There's like 5 keepers that came out, national caliber keepers. It was great. So he was really good technically wise.
Yeah. So you go with a little bit more of a profile now, back to your club.
Yeah, of course. The problem with Tecos was, so it's a family. Of course, it's a hobby for them, maybe. Mm-hmm. They have so much money. Of course, their main business is, of course, the schools. They have a bunch of real estate. And, of course, they have the team. And they have a bunch of other businesses. But the family, it was like 3 families. And all 3 had say in the team. So, for example, it's your turn to do your say. And if these don't work well, we'll jump to the next family. Mm. And if these don't work, we'll go to the next family. So Tecos, every 6 months, would change coaches. So in my 7 years being there, I got 12 coaches.
Oh, my goodness.
12 coaches. So what happens when you just change every 6 months? The guy who comes in doesn't know you. He's heard of you, but he doesn't know you. So he's going to do what he thinks is best. And the coach that comes in has his own keeper. Or he just doesn't know you enough. And he'll go with experience. So that was bad for me. So I had a lot of chances to leave during the drafts. But I wouldn't know this. People would later, like other coaches would tell me, hey, your team, man, they think like you're Peter Schmeichel. They want to sell you so much money. We want to take you, but it's too much. Cruz Azul, Santos, teams that are at that moment, like big teams. But anyways, after that second year with Tecos, and I didn't say this, Tecos, again, being small, they had a very high payroll. They couldn't hang with it. So their idea, of course, was to let go of all these players that were winning so much money, because after they won the 93 championship, they kept it 1 more year. But their idea was like, we cannot keep this. It's too much money we're spending. So we're going to let them all go. And all these players that we're working with, we're going to bring them up. And that's what happened.
That's when you got your opportunity?
That's when I got the opportunity. Yeah. So again, you go back to the opportunities, right? But the bad thing was, again, having changed coaches every 6 months, because they all had, every coach that would come in had their own idea. I want to leave. I was never able to leave. until 5-6 years later. That's when I left and I went to,
Yeah.
Corre Caminos.
Yeah, but what's it like having? I know they have 2 seasons in Mexico.
Yeah.
Is it Apertura and Clausura?
Yes.
Those 2.
Apertura, Clausura, yes.
So how is that from a goalkeeping perspective? Do you have 2? It's actually 2 seasons in one.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, it depends on the team or the squad. If the coach, they're going to keep the coach, and the coach is going to stay there for a long term. Doesn't matter if they lose. But all these coaches have all this pressure because they have to win. And if they don't win, then they're out after 2 months. And either you're going to start or you're not going to start.
Volatile.
Yeah, very. And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. And the short seasons do that. Because if you have a long season, it's better because, there's more time to really catch up to the leaders or, to win games but in a short season, in 3-4 months, if you're not winning, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So, okay, you know what? It's not working. You get out of here. Bring in a new coach. And that's for all teams, pretty much. There's some squads that really do. They have a long-term project and they'll stick to it. But a lot of teams, most of the teams don't.
Yeah.
They don't. So it sucks.
Yeah.
In that sense.
For sure. Again, continuity is huge in soccer, and whether it's coaching staffs, goalkeeper coaches, somebody that you invest a time in a relationship with.
Of course.
But tell me about it. So now it seems like there's a little bit of adversity you're kind of facing with the changing of coaches, but also to tell me about those times. Maybe was there a challenge when you now become the starter, or like what was the road to becoming pushed into the first team, and then now you're becoming a starter? Was that again because they needed to bring in the younger players and give those guys opportunities, or had you been proving it at the second division, then with the national team, you're proving it to them, and now they're like, okay, he's ready to go?
So you're proving it, of course. Again, when they let go of all these players after the 95 season and they bring us all up, I mean, I was already there, but they bring up everybody. Out of all those players that left, one keeper stayed. So it was that keeper and myself. And of course, he's going to play because of experience, but then he wasn't doing well. So then they put him down and I start playing. The guy who put me in was guy from Peru, Julio Cesar Uribe, and he loved me. And so I'm playing, but it's all these young guys. We're not winning. But he stuck to it, and he kept me there and playing. Unfortunately, of course, they're not winning, so they boot him. Guy comes in, Luis Fernando Tena, and I mean, this is where I say, man, this is where I should have said something more. He comes in. The first thing, he wants to see the squad, and he makes a 11 versus 11. And he puts that other guy, the experienced guy, as the starter with that team. And I'm thinking, man, what? I should be the starter, We have the game and everything. It ends. And he calls me over right after the practice. He tells me, I'm trying to go with him because of experience. I've seen you play and I know you well. But how do you feel? You not starting. I should have said, no, I want to start. I want to be there. Why are you putting him? I was playing. And it's not that I was doing bad. It's just the team wasn't doing well. I mean, look at the team. It's a young team. But I didn't say that.
What'd you say?
I said, okay, I just have to wait. And that was wrong. Because later I said, that was not the right thing to say. Because sometimes they want to hear, hey, he wants to start.
Yeah.
He's hungry. That really affected me. And that season ends. And then the following year, we get another coach. And then the coach, he brings in, that guy left, that keeper. The coach that came in, he brought his own keeper. So then he starts. And he's from Chile, the coach. And he's always telling me, I hear a lot about you. You're the future of this club, but I don't see it. You have to work harder. He was very tough. He was very tough, like military style.
How did that sit with you?
Oh, man, that was crazy. But he brings his own keeper. So, again, you have to, start up again. And then you're showing yourself to him. And he says, you know what? I'm going to give him a chance. But then what happens? They throw him out. They boot him because we're not getting the right results. Guy comes in. And that's just the way it was in Tecos. Every 6 months, 2-3 months. It was awful for me. Now I see it. If I had left, maybe it would have been different. And if I would have gone to another team that really wanted me or that really would give me the chance to play. I mean, you would never know.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had the same trajectory as Osvaldo and those guys after that, I guess, that Olympic run with them? You're not comparing your careers, but you're looking at them and saying, wow, I was just with those guys. Now they're ascending and being, featured by their club. And now I'm in this position where new coach is coming in, the new cycle. And
yes, it's tough. It's terrible. I knew I as good as them. But of course, they were in big clubs. They were starting their clubs. They had gone through the whole process, being in the under 15, under 17 national teams, under 20 national teams. So they were always in the system. But I think if I had more of a chance to play more, I mean, I could have, of course, done the same thing.
Yeah.
But when I leave Tecos, my first year, so I go to Correcaminos up north, and I got to play the whole season, and I did really well, and I was feeling good.
First division.
It was second division.
Okay.
Well, it's a team that we actually played 2 finals to go up to first division.
Okay.
And we lost them, but that was fun. I mean, because again, I got to play.
Yeah.
And that's what you want.
No ego anymore at that point. You were just like, you know what? I want to get my minutes.
That's it. I mean, you want to play. You want to do. You want to show yourself now. In the following season, they sent me to Queretaro, and the starting keeper at Queretaro was Erobi Kabuto. Atlas also. Very good keeper. Came out of the same system with Oswaldo. So I go to Querétaro. 3 games in, he hurts his shoulder and he's out. He has to get surgery. So he'll be out like for 4 months. So I got in. I played the whole season. The best. I mean, I had a really good season. In January, which the next season starts, Kabuto's back. Mm. But the coach, I mean, he respected. He kept me in. And he kept me in. He had a bunch of pressure because Kabuto was winning a lot of money. I mean, he was winning a lot of money because he was a star, you could say. Because he had been playing all these years and always doing well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the main thing. You got to play in order to really prove yourself.
Yeah.
So I think he got a lot of pressure, the coach. And then, like 3 games in, he makes the change. Mm. We had tied, lost. I think we had 2 ties and 1 loss. So I'm sure he got a pressure, and then Kabuto came back, and then he started playing. And I still played maybe that second season, another maybe 5 games. But I love being in Querétaro. I mean, I wanted to stay there. But I still belong to Tecos. So, that season in Querétaro, I did really well. So what does Tecos do? They bring me back. And I didn't want to go back, but Querétaro was not going to pay what Tecos wanted. And then I go back to Tecos. There's 2 new keepers. A guy, I love this guy, Lupe. He was on the under 20 national team. He was so cool, man. And it's crazy because he had been there since when I was there, and he was a kid. I mean, I was already 27 when I go back, 26, and he was 15 during that time. So he looked up to me. So we're in the room because they always put the keepers together, and he's telling me, "Hey, parejita. You don't remember when you used to, I used to go to the locker room or be outside and ask you for stuff?" I don't. So you were the only one that would always give me gloves, pants. I didn't have anything. And you were the only one. Not Briones, not the other guy. You were the only one. I go, I don't remember, tell you the truth. That's why I love you. So yeah, but when I go back the 2002, 2003 season, I think I got to play there maybe about 10 games. And then I did it 1 more year. Tecos wanted to sell me already. They didn't want to stay with me anymore. And after 11 years, I was really tired. One thing is seeing players play on TV and, they live a dream. But there's so many things that are backdoor that just nobody ever sees. And it's very tiring.
Yeah.
Mentally,
yeah.
Emotionally. I was tired. I was really tired. The motivation was not 100% anymore. I could have gone to Honduras to play with Olympia. There was other squads that I could go to. But by then, I already had my wife, 2 kids. I was just like, going down there to a second division team, it just didn't motivate me. Mm-hmm. And that's when I just said, you know what, I think so I was 31. I was still young.
Yeah.
I could have played maybe 3-4 more years as a keeper.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided, you know what, I think I want to do something else.
From the time in Tecos, what do you remember most?
People always tell me that because, of course, the game that's why you play, because you love it and you're passionate and it's beautiful. But, what you remember the most is just the locker room, just hanging around the guys and, going out to the stadiums and the people. I think that's what I remember the most, You leave so many friends behind, great players, great human beings. And The locker room is just fun, and you know how it is.
Yeah, we know how it is.
It's just,
It is fun.
It's fun.
Everyone gets on their journey and
Yeah.
continues elsewhere. And like
Yes.
you say, you're a
Yes.
family and you try to be
Yeah.
mixed in, but then at the same time, you understand it's a business. And I remember watching your games every Sunday. We'd go to Nana Tata's house and we'd just watch you on TV and we'd say, okay, Uncle Peter, if you're on TV, just give us a peace sign. And you do like the little peace signs. They do like they had the dugout and just take a little, and you'd be there. And so I was, yeah.
Yeah, but going back as a kid, I think I was like 10. I wasn't good. I mean, I like catching balls, but I wasn't good as a keeper. And I remember I used to play for this team before that good team I used to play for as a kid. It was called Leon. I think I was 9. And I remember this game, the ball went through my legs. We lost 4-0. And there was a kid, a forward. He was really good, Fernando. And then the game ends, and I'm changing. And then the dad of that kid, he comes up to me. He was my dad's friend, actually. And he says, hey, ¿cómo estás, Pedro? Tu papá? Oh, está bien. So, oye, do you really want to be a keeper? I mean, do you like soccer? Oh, yeah. He's like, maybe you should play baseball or something else. I didn't know. I was like, no, I like soccer. I mean, he was telling me that I sucked. I shouldn't be playing soccer, and I'm losing games for them.
Yeah.
The crazy thing that always stood in my head. That was a motivation for me to just like train harder. I'm gonna prove him wrong. That this is what I want to do. And my first game, professional game in first division with Tecos, 95 season. I'm warming up, and the guys call me from behind, Pedro. And I finally just like turn around and it's this guy's dad, Fernando.
Wow.
And so I was happy to see him, and I go back there, and I get to the fence. Pedro, que bueno, I'm so happy for you and all this, thank you, gracias, And I told him, I go, Fernando, let me tell you this. You were a big part of me being here because you were the motivation. He says, like, why? And I told him that story. And he almost cried.
Wow.
Yeah, he almost cried. It was crazy, though. It was good. But, things like that could change your life.
I know we're glossing over a lot of things. I would want to have you back here for like a part 2 because I know you got to get to work. But from all of your experiences, the adversity, the successes, some of the failures that you had, can you sum it all up into a piece of advice that young goalkeepers and young players out there who are listening or watching?
This is the main one. You got to give it all every single time you're on the field. And, you got to feel good at the end of the practice or at the end of whatever you're doing. You got to feel good. You know what? I gave it all, 110%. I left nothing out. Because when you get that chance or the opportunity, that will go transfer over to the field and you'll be ready. You'll be confident. You'll be feeling good about yourself because you did things right. You don't do things right at practice. You feel like you're being relegated and you feel like, it sucks. The coach doesn't like me. Do not have that mentality. Have the mentality that doesn't matter. I'm going to do my best. I don't care if you don't like me, but I'm going to do my best and I know that I can make it. And if you get that chance, it's going to transfer over to the field. And trust me, you're going to do well.
Yeah.
And then anything can happen.
Yeah.
Just like me.
I love that. It's those moments where when no one else believes in you, you kind of have to turn all the lights to yourself and say, okay, I'm my biggest fan. I'm my biggest critic.
Yes.
And I need to make sure that, again, I'm not showing up for anybody else but myself.
That's it.
And then, like you're saying, those little pieces, you start to stack them little bit by bit.
Yep.
And then eventually, when the tides turn, an injury happens or scenario where the team sells everybody and you need to step in, you come in and like you're saying, you have no regrets. And I think you have no regrets then. Or you have some, maybe. I'm sure you do.
I have some.
Okay.
We'll talk about that next time.
Okay.
I have
we'll do it again. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I'll
you,
see you at the
Omar.
next
Thank you very
family
much,
barbecue, okay?
I appreciate it.
Take
Thank you
care.
very much.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Thank you.